week's episode of Pick Sports Talk. I'm Brandon Schiffman.
And I'm Spencer Stein. As Brandon just said before we pressed record, it is weird to be back with a regular episode. We've been doing so many specials, but starting today, and actually it'll be happening on Thursdays, but we'll be dropping a weekly episode every Thursday. Back at it this season, talking about every sport. This is basically my favorite thing to do. I know I say that about a lot of things, but the weekly episodes, week in, week out, are just such consistency. I love talking about everything. Love consistency. So, biggest topic this week has to be college football. There was nothing like watching the first week of college football. The environments are insane. The student sections, the players, everything is wild about college football. And this was a great week with a lot of wild games. But the biggest one going into the week, everyone knew it, was Ohio State Notre Dame. And although it wasn't close till the very end, I'd say it somewhat lived up to the hype.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a really good game. And there was a lot of people on the lookout for. I really quickly wanted to just shout out Notre Dame. Although they didn't come out with the outcome they wanted. This was their first game with a new coach, new quarterback. A lot of their better players on the defensive and offensive side of the ball actually went to the draft. So that's a pretty big deal. That being said, I think Notre Dame held their own for the majority of the game. The main difference between Notre Dame and this shows it shows the difference between Ohio State, Georgia, Bama, and kind of the rest of college football. Notre Dame's one of the best teams in college football, but Ohio State had that level of depth that towards the end of the game, they didn't burn out the way Notre Dame did. Instead, they brought on their RB2, and I think it was one drive in particular. He was averaging like 8 yards per carry.
Yeah.
That's the difference between a great team and a very, very great team.
Yeah, I honestly struggle with interpreting this game. And my first big takeaway is that Notre Dame is good. Notre Dame, we underestimated them. Marcus Freeman is as good as we thought. Go back to our episodes right when they hired him, we loved him. And I think this season wasn't even about winning for Notre Dame. And people are going to kind of take a step back from this. But it's about proving that they have a stable core to start building around. I know in college football, people argue, you can't really always have a base because there's new players every couple of years. But they have such great recruiting classes for the next few years. This is going to be their worst team for the next 5 years. Their only huge bright spot's going to be a top pick is Michael Mayer, Baby Gronk, the tight end. So I think that shows a lot, and that Marcus Freeman is who we thought he was going to be. They're going to do really well this season. They're going to be a threat. They'll make a New Year's Six bowl, not quite in the playoff. They will be very good. Ohio State side of things. At first I thought they underwhelmed, but I think really this game was more about Notre Dame overwhelming. And the big takeaway, though, with Ohio State for me is that I'm not worried about anything except C.J. Stroud. There's a reason I said that Ohio State will be the best team in the country this year, the one seed in the playoff last week, but C.J. Stroud won't be a Heisman Award finalist. It's because I didn't like him last year, and I stick by that this year. What he's good at is escaping the pocket and still having a completion. A lot of guys we congratulate for escaping the pocket, maybe running for a yard, maybe throwing it away so there's not a sack. He actually escapes the pocket and throws a completion. He did that multiple times. But his accuracy is not there at all, C.J. Stroud. Very questionable. A lot of missed throws. Obviously, Smith and Jigba got hurt early, but I love that their receiver depth. I love Travion Henderson. Really impressed me. And their defense is good. So I love Ohio State this year, but I still maintain that I do not like C.J. Stroud. He should not be a top 10 pick in next year's NFL draft. He's nowhere near Bryce Young. And I now put Anthony Richardson, yes, after one game, Anthony Richardson ahead of them. So I think Stroud is going to be Ohio State's weak spot this year. And actually now I think they'll lose a game somewhere because he will throw a pick late. So don't like Stroud. Still love Ohio State and very high Notre Dame now.
To call him a weak spot I think is a little bit steep just because he will put up great stats. I think he's a good leader. The one thing I will give him credit for, he's held to actually two things. He's held to a very high standard compared to a lot of quarterbacks in the country. And with that being said, he still stays composed. Even when he's making mistakes,
it's almost like a system QB.
Yeah, it almost feels like he's doing everything with a purpose. It's not like he's panicking. And like a lot of quarterbacks in his shoes would be panicking. He's always composed. He's always doing something for a reason, which I like a lot about him. I think with that being said, I think there will be great days for him and not so great days for him. But Ohio State has enough talent around him that I don't think they'll ever be necessarily struggling.
That's a very good point to raise about in defense of him. That does stay composed, I agree. But I doubt that they couldn't find a more accurate QB. And how about this? Stroud, yes, he was probably top 3 QB in college football last year, but people are going to start comparing him to Ewers pretty soon. Because Ewers is playing well. I know we haven't seen enough of him. It's been one game. But if he is playing like he was in high school, people are going to really question that decision to stick with Stroud, but I do think they had to do that. And if I look at my notes from last year's college football season, I've over and over, week in and week out, I don't like Stroud. And over the year, the media kind of won me over, saying, oh, look at his numbers, look how good the team's doing. And I'm not going to let that happen this year. Stroud, if you're watching a game by the eye test alone, he is not the most accurate guy out there. I don't need to sound like a broken record, but I really don't love Stroud. Let's talk about what I thought the best or second best game of the week was, at least Florida State LSU. Florida State won by 1 point. They were ahead the whole game. They're on the 1 yard line trying to go up 14 with a minute left. Fumbled. LSU drove 99 yards down the field, scored. extra point was blocked, lost by 1 point in Brian Kelly's debut. Brandon, what do you think of this game?
Sloppy is the wrong word to say here. LSU is just obviously an unfortunate circumstance. FSU got away with a little bit of a lucky win. I don't like what Brian Kelly said at halftime. He was like, the reporter asked him something, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't think it's gonna get much worse than that. I hope." And you don't look to a leader to say things like that.
He's said things like that his whole time. I mean, last year he said that the whole Notre Dame team should be executed at halftime of a game.
It's just
so
like
he said things like that before.
Things like that.
But additionally, I don't like Brian Kelly. And if you go back to the same episode where I talked about why I love Marcus Freeman, I talked about why I hated Brian Kelly in LSU. His first day there, where he went with that fake Southern accent, said a lot. And people joke about it, but I don't think he's a fit there. He's been at Notre Dame for so long. Things are done a certain way there. And I think it's much harder to do well at a school like LSU in the SEC. And yes, he has those recruiting advantages. Yes, he's getting paid a ton. And yes, they'll give him a lot of opportunities. And I'm not saying he's going to be utterly atrocious. Yeah. But I've never loved Brian Kelly. I think Notre Dame was never elite.
They've always put talent
around him, but they've never been elite. So I think he's going to struggle there. But I think this all says a lot about Florida State. Jordan Travis is damn good.
Yeah.
Florida State's quarterback. He impressed me a ton last night. He is now one of the on Heisman watch officially. Yep. He is in that quarterback tier of where I'm thinking of guys like Richardson, Levis, Bryce Young. He is one of those guys I'm looking at every week. He is must-watch football.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan Travis, Florida State's quarterback. He got put on the map in one day. He's at Louisville, had to transfer out. He's had injury trouble at Florida State. He hasn't got his opportunity yet. This is going to be a big year for him. I don't think Florida State's going to be great, but Travis is must-watch television.
Absolutely.
And you don't say that about every single quarterback in college football. He is a good guy to watch. So Florida State really surprised me. They entertained me. And I thought LSU would win this game, but that was one of the better games I've seen this year.
Yeah, let's get to, in my opinion, at least the game of the week. That was Florida versus Utah. I quickly want to say, Anthony Richardson, I don't give this praise out to a lot of people. He's him.
He's the Heisman favorite for 1 week.
He looked so good. And
I was low on him last week.
A lot of people were saying that people calling Utah so much as saying Utah are frauds. I completely disagree with that. I think that is an awful take.
It's hard to win the swamp.
You know what I think? I think it's more so Florida being legit than Utah not being legit. I think Florida is a legitimate team, and they're a team to look out for. Utah's very good, but Florida just happened to win the day. And with that being said, I think Florida's a real team, and I think they're led by one of the best quarterbacks in the country, in Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, he's probably the 2 right now in everyone's minds, right behind Bryce Young. And Florida will be ranked somewhat this year.
Oh, yeah.
They have played their way into that conversation of Ole Miss, Arkansas, and the SEC. And Kentucky were up there. I'm so excited for them to play Kentucky this week. That is my marquee matchup this week. Over Texas, Alabama that I'm going to. I'm more excited to watch Levis versus Richardson. So Florida's good. I love watching the swamp. Something about that environment. As you said about Utah, they still were fine.
Yeah.
I think that they're still going to win the Pac-12. I still have them beating USC at home. I doubt they lose another game this year. How about that? Utah's good. This was a test. This will only make them stronger. And when the committee is looking back at week 1 games, I think they kind of give the benefit of the doubt. So Utah, if anything, after this week, you're going to say I'm crazy for this. Their playoff odds, in my mind, went up. Because Clemson looked bad. I don't know how good Clemson's going to be. And if Utah wins out, I think they're good, and I think they will win out. So both these teams are really going to be fun to watch for the rest of the year. How about my pigs, my hogs? Arkansas beat Cincinnati. I thought they'd win by more, but my guy, KJ Jefferson.
He's good.
There's so many marquee quarterbacks this year. KJ Jefferson was my favorite last year. I'm sticking with him. Yep. He's Josh Allen. He's Cam Newton. He is him.
He's a stud. He's another guy that's just so fun to watch. I like how you were talking about Jordan Travis as must-watch football. That's how I feel about KJ Jefferson. I mean, he's just super fun to watch. With that being said, Luke Fickell's Bearcats, it's crazy.
They're going to have a bad year.
It's just wild how many of their guys went in the draft. I was looking at last year. I mean, you had Ritter, Kobe Bryant, Sauce, Alec Pierce.
Yeah.
They lost a ton of guys. With that being said, I think they're going to continue to recruit well, but Arkansas looks good. Cincy, not so much, but you know what?
They'll recruit well. They won't have a good year. I love Arkansas. I said it last year. I think they're New Year's 6 bound.
Yep.
KJ Jefferson, though, won't be a top pick because of his injury trouble. He's a good runner. He throws it deep, but that accuracy might be an issue, so I think people are going to be a little biased towards him. Love Arkansas, so nothing changed there. Georgia.
Oh, my God, Georgia.
49-3 against Oregon. Who's to say more about?
I think it says more about Georgia. People were really having a day roasting Oregon, but with that being said, Georgia just told the entire nation, we're here and we're here to stay. And what I mean by that is, you look at Georgia, I saw something, a tweet, it was Georgia football players are made in a lab.
Yeah.
Legitimately, these guys are robots. They're just so talented. There's not even that much more I need to say. Oregon's a very good team. Like they're
Maybe.
not.
Bo Nix sucks.
Yeah, Bo Nix had a rough outing.
He's done.
Oregon has talent. Oregon legitimately has talent. They might even bring in Ty Thompson, who I think could potentially be better after what we saw out of Bo Nix. But, like, Georgia was just toying with
Georgia,
them.
I mean, last year was Bama and Georgia the whole year. And this year we both had them in the playoff. We were talking Bama, Ohio State. Georgia's the second best team in football.
They
maybe the first.
So good.
They're so good. And what impressed me was their offense.
Yeah.
Stetson Bennett's a great system QB. He's just as good as he was last year. And Oregon's defense was supposed to be good, led by Noah Sewell, who I had as a Heisman finalist. That's what impressed me. But I think Oregon's offense was nowhere to be found, and Georgia's defense we expect to be that good. What impressed me is that they're still good, even with their defensive coordinator, now head coach at Oregon, Dan Lanning. But Dan Lanning, I think, has a bright future ahead of him. I think Oregon will bounce back at some point this year, but man, they got
hard to come back.
Here's what the best game of the week was. I don't care what you said about Utah. I don't care what we thought about Ohio State, Notre Dame, Florida State, LSU. The best game of the week, which was Appalachian State 61, UNC 63. We don't have to talk much about this, but if you haven't seen anything about this game, go watch the highlights. UNC shouldn't be great, but something about App State week 1. They beat Michigan a bunch of years ago. They make things interesting. That was a great game. App State can play their way into being ranked. They have a big game this week against Texas A&M. I don't think they'll win it, and going 0-2 for a group of 5 teams never good, but it can be a good 0-2.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, that was definitely an entertaining game. I expect the same.
Let's stay in Carolina.
Let's go ahead with
NC State.
NC State beat Eastern Carolina, and with that being said, NC State is a top. I get the Eastern Carolina's good, but NC State being a top, I think 16 team in the country, they're ranked 13.
Yeah.
I kind of almost am like near the point where I'd say that's fraudulent. Like ECU had a chance to tie the game, they had a chance to win the game, and they happened to miss 2 field goals.
Yeah.
I think that NC State is not the team they said people think they are. And when we were talking about the ACC, you said people thought NC State were going to win the ACC. I just had that quote you said, like, replaying in my head when I was watching that game, thinking, wow, those people are wrong.
So Leary, I think, is not as good as people are saying they're QB. And first, I want to say that this game doesn't make me doubt anything because I think ECU is such a good team.
Really good team.
I think they're a top 3 group of 5 team. I put them right there with Houston, Cincinnati. And it was also on the road. I mean, the spread was only 3 or 4. So, but when I'm looking at the ACC, obviously Clemson's better. I like Pitt and Miami more. So NC State being ranked 13 and being the second favorite there, I think is fraudulent, but I think they are still a fine team. I'm not going to overreact. Let's talk about 2 blowouts, but 2 teams everyone wants to talk about.
Yeah, it's really quick.
All anyone wants to talk about is USC and Texas. Brandon, talk to me about both of them. Both won big blowouts against Rice and Louisiana Monroe, respectively.
Yeah, I'm going to start with USC real quick because I have a little bit more to say. USC looked really, really good. Like, Caleb Williams was scrambling well. He's throwing accurately.
They were favored by 35.
He's a real game manager, though. They looked composed. It was a good practice. It was a good warm-up game for the rest of their season. Rice football isn't where it's at, but I think USC showed some good flashes. We'll see how that looks against some better competition. Same with Texas. Texas looked good. Sarkisian and Ewers seem to be. I mean, like, Sarkisian's playbook seemed to be fitting well with Ewers' mindset in his game. So yeah, I actually really liked what I saw. That being said, Quinn Ewers, speaking to you right now, you have to park in designated zones. You can't just park anywhere.
I take nothing away from either of these games. It's stupid to do so. I still have Utah winning the Pac-12, and I kind of said last week I have Texas winning the Big 12, but I've done a lot of thinking on this, and nothing that happened this week changed my mind. I had my mind changed before.
Okay.
Texas will definitely not win the Big 12. Here's why. It's so competitive. I know I was really struggling picking them last year, but here's who's going to win the Big 12. I flip-flopped Oklahoma, Texas. It's going to be Oklahoma State. I told you I like Spencer Sanders. They're a consistent team. I think Oklahoma State is back. The air raid offense. Last year they came so close. They were the best team in the Big 12 last year. They will do it again. And Texas is going to get, hate to spoiler alert, steamrolled by Alabama. Steamrolled. They don't have a shot.
Yeah, it's going to be.
We'll talk about that later. One last thing, Brent. 12-team playoff is happening in college football. Announced this week. Like it, don't like it, quick.
Like it, more football, more competitive, more teams involved. Happy Brandon.
Don't like it. I think it takes away competition. I don't like that there's going to be 3 playoff weeks, or 4 playoff weeks
just more football.
in college football. I thought it should have at least been 8. And my advocacy is actually for it can be anywhere between 4 and 8, depending on how many teams are worthy. I think it's actually stupid to combine it to a number. We usually see kind of tiers of teams. So they would have never done that, but I don't like 12. I would have liked maximum of 8. A few years away. We'll talk about that as it gets closer. Storyline of the week. Flying under the radar. Donovan Mitchell.
Yep.
Top 20 player of the NBA. No
doubt.
My
MVP pick last year.
Your MVP pick last year.
Yeah.
Traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers for Lowry Markkanen, Colin Sexton, Ochai Agbaji, 3 first-rounders, 2 swaps. The Jazz now between 2 trades for Gobert and Mitchell, and by flipping Patrick Beverley to my Lakers, which we're not even going to mention, but I love that move. I just think they could have gotten more. Have acquired 9 players, 7 picks, and 3 swaps for Gobert and Mitchell. Great job by the Utah Jazz. Before we talk about Cleveland, Are you impressed? How impressed?
I'm impressed by. I mean, obviously, like going into the offseason, that was not something I expected to happen. Just because 2 years ago they had the best record in the NBA. Like this was a team that we were thinking like they're not quite there for a title, but like we never thought rebuilding was like in their cards. And clearly they had other plans. And I think they've honestly gotten. They have a foundation. They have a foundation.
Ainge is better than Presti. How about that? Presti took 3 years and tons of players to build up his core. Ainge did it in 3 trades. By trading away 2 players, he built up as many first-round picks as OKC has. But I do think it's crazy how quick they abandoned ship, and everyone knew Gobert and Mitchell wasn't going to work.
It's a little bit questionable. I think that they could have maybe put another year into it, but now
Gobert's nothing.
Now we don't even need to focus on that because now we have a lot to talk about. That being said, the 9 players and 7 picks. Realistically, you can look at that as 9 picks and 7 players because
7 players and 9 picks. Well, Agbaji and Kessler.
Yep. What I'm saying is you could look at Agbaji and Kessler as almost 2 picks.
Yeah, it's more like 7 players and 9 picks.
Yeah, exactly.
Insane.
I think that now they have great. When I say great foundation, they're going to be.
There's no foundation. They have a great future.
They have a great future. They have their pieces to build their future up now. Is what I'm trying to say. Cavs in the East is the real question.
And one more thing. Small markets are really trending down the NBA. They need to draft to win, like Milwaukee did, because you're not drawing in a free agent, and that's why this approach is going to work. Let's talk about Cleveland. That's a real interesting thing there.
Yeah.
What were we going to say? I think they're a top 5 team in the East.
I think that they're going to be extremely fun to watch. The thing about the East, we were talking about this all year last year, is you have so many teams that are like in the picture that like, I remember you said like, there's so many teams I could see them winning a series, but only so many teams can really win a series.
I have 8 teams in the East winning a first-round series.
Exactly.
Only 4 can do it.
They're just another one of those teams now. They're another team that could win a series, but who knows?
They're better than that. They're in a tier way ahead of teams like the Bulls. I think they're maybe ahead of the Sixers. Here's what I think about the East. The top 2 teams, no doubt, who are not going to get beat this year. It's going to be one of these 2 teams in the finals, are the Celtics and the Bucks. The Bucks, year in and year out, are elite. Giannis, the best player in basketball. They have Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton. There are no question marks there, except for health. Boston has only got better. I think they're the favorites out of the East after picking up Malcolm Brogdon after going to the finals last year. Those are top 2. After that, there's debate. I told you at the end of last season, a new team has made it out of the East every year, so I thought Philly would have a shot.
Yeah.
That is now Cleveland. Yeah. I absolutely love Cleveland. Darius Garland is the most underrated player in the NBA.
Very well.
Donovan Mitchell is the 3rd, 4th best shooting guard in the NBA. Karis LeVert is good. Evan Mobley is elite. He is a future All-Star. Jared Allen has been an All-Star.
That's Cleveland. I forgot about that.
Cleveland is great, and they are young. Mm-hmm. This is not going to be the year they make it out the East, but I think they have a shot. I'm not where I was talking about the Bulls last year, where they're in a cycle of mediocrity. Mm-hmm. Cleveland is not there. Cleveland can make it to an NBA Finals in the next 3 years. Sure. Very, very competitive. I legitimately think that they are the 3rd best team in the East. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that right now. That's a hot take. I think Brooklyn is actually 3. But Brooklyn, there's so many question marks. One week into the season, I could say Brooklyn's a 3 and Cleveland's 4. I like that. Miami's my 5 probably. Yeah. They're good year in and year out, but last year they kind of underwhelmed me.
There's just so many teams in the East that's like they could make.
And the 6 is Philly. The 6 is Philly. My 7's Atlanta. I mean, they picked up DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray is probably
Chicago.
Yeah, DeJounte Murray I think is as good, if not better than Darius Garland, and Trae Young is their one who is just as good, if not better than Donovan Mitchell. Plus John Collins, just good, if not better than Jared Allen. Though I think Cleveland has Mobley and LeVert. So I think I like Cleveland more than Atlanta for sure. But Cleveland, don't sleep on them. People are going to say this isn't a huge deal. Donovan Mitchell, very underrated.
Very. I was going to say Donovan Mitchell's been one of my favorite players for the longest time. I actually met him. He's a very nice guy. But yeah, I think that Cleveland's going to be a fun team to watch. Just the NBA as a whole.
You have the ball. I don't want to talk about the NBA this early. Honestly, I need to be football minded. So this is probably the last time we're going to mention it for a while. But you think the Bulls are a top 7 team in the East?
I think they can.
Who you have them above? Atlanta.
I think I have them above Atlanta as of right now. Yeah. As of right now, I have them above Atlanta.
Delusional.
Just last year, Atlanta was so bad, Spencer.
They were great 2 years ago, and they picked up DeJounte Murray. What the Bulls do? Not much.
Bulls
drafted Dalen Terry.
And, we did well.
They still have Vooch. Keeping Vooch is the biggest negative any team has had this offseason. They couldn't get Gobert. They couldn't get a better center than Vooch. Big negative. Okay. One more basketball thing, though. Yeah. Chet Holmgren out for the year, talking about OKC.
It's a damn shame. That's what it is.
I hate Chet.
No, it's just...
I'm mad he's hurt. I wanted to watch him. I won't wish injury, but I hate Chet.
It's unfortunate because he was someone that everyone was looking to see, and now he's just not going to...
It's just an interesting case. Will he work or not? And I think he's going to be injury-prone his whole career. He's injury-prone like Zion without the skill. Yeah. That's Chet. Bust. Saying it now, bust. I have a 30-second I want to get to before we get away from basketball. We don't talk about soccer on Pick Up Sports Talk. I actually notably dislike soccer.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it, I think, since the formation of the Euro Super League. But if you've seen me wearing my USA soccer gear a few times, because I'm excited for the World Cup.
Okay.
I actually like the World Cup. One thing every 4 years I get excited about football. And I'm kind of trying to get into the Premier League. I've been following it, and I've been looking, and my team's Arsenal. And I decided this week I'd watch Arsenal Man United. And honestly, it was kind of boring to me. I still can't focus on soccer. But I just want to mention the game. I'm disappointed Arsenal lost to Man U. I still think they're the best team in the Premier League, though. Tottenham's right there behind them, so is Man City. Man City will probably win it. Manchester United, though, maybe they're back, so I don't know about that, but still don't expect me to talk about or watch any more soccer this year until the World Cup, at least.
Okay, Spencer, got it. Let's move on to topic for the U.S. Open. I quickly want to say Serena Williams' retirement, it almost feels like weird. Part of me almost expects her to pull like a Tom Brady and then like 2 months, like, surprise, so. I'm back, but I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
One of, if not the greatest athletes of all time, most dominant athletes of all time, it's been a pleasure to grow up watching her play.
Yeah, I don't like talking about her in terms of just tennis players, because I think she's one of the greatest athletes of all time, for sure. In terms of tennis players, people are going to debate all day who the GOAT is there, and she has the majors behind her. I think she's the GOAT, but I do think there's reasonable arguments for it to be someone like Steffi Graf. I just think Graf was just as good, if not better, on the court, but she didn't have the long-term accolades. Yeah. Similar to LeBron or Jordan, I'm going with Serena. Sad to see her go. I obviously was surprised, actually, she went that far in the U.S. Open. I wanted her to go farther, but she's one of the GOATs. It was, as you said, a pleasure watching her play as we grew up, and she's my face of women's tennis. When I think about women's tennis, I think about Serena and Venus. Shame they couldn't win the doubles match. Let's talk about the U.S. Open, though. We're a week in. I'm sad we couldn't get predictions in before it started, but we've seen some big upsets. Francis Tiafoe, notably, I think you have predicted him to win every major.
Oh, yeah.
In the past year.
He's my favorite tennis player ever. A few years ago at the U.S. Open, I was probably like 7 or 8 years old. Or, yeah, somewhere around there. I actually watched one of his matches and just randomly, I was like, he's my guy from here on out.
Like Nick Kyrgios, he started to focus more on tennis, stop partying before matches, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You might think I'm lying, but I predicted him beating Nadal this morning. I said to my whole family he's going to beat Nadal today. Do you think he's going to get it done and get his first title?
I really hope so. He's a guy I've liked for a very long time, and I've rooted for a very long time. So with that being said, Francis Tiafoe, let's take it home. Me and you.
No way.
I mean,
Nick Kyrgios is going to break through. Okay. Loved him at Wimbledon. Nadal's the only one standing in his way. Now no one like that's there. Djokovic couldn't play. Nadal and Medvedev have been beaten. He took out Medvedev. Nick Kyrgios right now is the most on-fire player in tennis. He's must-watch tennis. If you're not a tennis fan, watch Nick Kyrgios. He yells at fans mid-matches. Yeah. Yes, that's entertaining. He will win the U.S. Open, and I'm not saying this is a joke. I genuinely think it. He's playing the best tennis of anyone there right now. He's dominant. Women's draw, Iga Swiatek. I still think she's the best player in tennis. She just had a 37-match win streak that was broken by Alizé Cornet, but she will beat Coco Gauff in the final. Coco Gauff, I still think of her as like 16 years old. I think she's 18 now, but still very young. She will make it to her first major final, but Iga Swiatek will get it done in the women's draw.
I agree with that take. Swiatek, I think, will win as well. She's just been so dominant for a pretty long time. I think that she's just there to stay.
Yeah, ever since Barty retired, she's been the best women's tennis player.
Let's give a very quick MLB update.
Kind of just a home run update.
Home run update. Let's hear it.
Aaron Judge hit 53. The Yankees are slumping. Big deal. That is the big deal. I think people are talking about Judge so much. Need to be talking about how bad the Yankees are at the same time.
They stink.
They stink. But Judge should catch the AL mark. Think he'll get there? I mean, it's expected. He's on pace to beat Maris, get the most in Yankees history and AL history. Think he'll get there?
I think he could. I realistically see it happening, but that being said, the Yankees have been bad enough now that I don't know if it's gonna affect the locker room or the clubhouse, and we'll see what happens.
A week ago I said you wouldn't, but what I realized is the Yankees slumping is separate than Aaron Judge's home runs. Yeah. The Yankees can slump while he's hitting home runs, and I'm not mentioning him. I'm not throwing him in that tier with what the Yankees have been since Derek Jeter left, of kind of sadness and Aaron Boone being a mid-manager and Giancarlo Stanton being hurt. I'm not throwing him in there. I think he might catch Maris. He really should. It'll be a big choke job if he doesn't, so I expect that. But what I'm more interested in, home run race-wise, Albert Pujols has hit 695, one away from tying A-Rod. I don't really care as much about that. I want him to be the fourth guy to get 700. And he's done it, by the way. Twice he's hit the go-ahead homer against the Cubs. They're not just throwing him out there hoping he'll get to 700. He's making a difference. He had the only RBIs in a win over the Cubs, I think 1 or 2-0 the other day.
Yeah, I'm really rooting for him as well. He's one of those guys it's just hard to see him retire.
He's the only Cardinal that I think I could really root for wholeheartedly. I don't root against, so I'm actually hoping he gets that done. We've covered a lot of sports. We're gonna end with something exciting. College football taking it full circle. Week 2.
Yep.
Let's start with Bama UT. College game is going to be there. I'm going to be there. Maybe I'll cover it.
Yep, let's get some rapid fire predictions real quick. I'm going to start Bama UT. I have Bama by a hefty margin.
Bama will cover.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Baylor versus BYU. This is one of the more marquee matchups. I personally think Baylor as a 10 seed, kind of overrated. That's my hot take. I still think they win this game, maybe by field goal or touchdown.
BYU didn't look great. BYU will join the Big 12, so they'll be conference foes in a few years. I got Baylor. I don't think they're overrated. I think they're just a better team here. Iowa State. This would have been a great game last year. How about Iowa? They scored 7 points by a field goal and 2 safeties against South Dakota State.
Sad.
I don't know what is going on with Iowa State. I haven't followed them whatsoever. I'll admit it. I'll be the first one to admit it. But Iowa has no offense. It's going to be an issue. They have Did you predict them to win the East in the Big Ten? I don't remember. They have no shot if that's what you predicted.
Wisconsin.
It's going to be Wisconsin. I had Wisconsin. Iowa is going to regress this year. Everyone just assumes year in and year out they're going to be good. This is not that year. Their offense is going to be near the bottom of the Big Ten. Their defense will keep this game close, but I got Iowa State. I don't care who Iowa State puts out there. Their Iowa will not get more than 10 points.
Yeah, Petrus is garbage. Last year in an episode, I think I said he was decent. That was too much praise. He's garbage. Iowa State's
P-trash, they call him.
Okay. Yeah, no, I saw a guy with the sign of one of their games saying, I root for the punter.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild.
It's insane.
USC versus Stanford. I think this could be a fun matchup to watch. I expect USC to not necessarily have another blowout, but to put together another offensive performance that's pretty impressive.
I told you I couldn't care less about last week's game. This game I care about. It's on ABC. They're only favored by 9. They need to prove something here. This is the game. This is their real debut. This is their new, showing the Pac-12 who USC now is before they get out there. Before they get out there. Stanford, I really hope they beat them. I don't think they do. I got USC covering, winning by 10. Tennessee, Pitt, ACC versus SEC. Both teams were in great matchups on Thursday night, I think, last week. I got Tennessee. I think they're the better team. Pitt didn't look great against West Virginia. Yes, they're ranked higher, but the SEC will beat the ACC almost anytime they play this year. And I think Hendon Hooker's pretty solid QB for Tennessee. Tennessee, underrated team. They will get the job done.
Just for the sake of not agreeing with you on one of our takes, I'm going to actually have to take Pitt here.
It's been a tough week with our agreements.
Yeah, I feel like there's too much agreement going on in our last few episodes we've recorded. So, yeah, I don't love Pitt by any means. I think Slovis is fine. I think he's an above-average college quarterback. But with that being said, I'm just going to have to disagree with you on this take just for the sake of entertainment and maybe a friendly gentleman's bet.
Okay. I mentioned App State, how good they were last week. Can I play spoiler against A&M this week?
I'm rooting for them, but I don't think so. I don't think A&M's even all that great, but I think that they will beat App State this week.
I love A&M. This game will not be as close, the UNC game. App State has some team. They will show that they have fight. A&M will win. South Carolina, Rattler. I didn't see much about his matchup last week, but they're against my Hogs. Who's winning?
I honestly
I'm
actually going to be rooting for Arkansas here. I don't know, your enthusiasm about them has been pretty infectious, but that being said, I think that this could be a pretty good quarterback matchup, but can I hear your take real quick about this one?
Yeah. Woo Pig is going far this year.
Okay.
I told you, the Arkansas Razorbacks, I'm still saying it, they're beating Alabama this year, period. I will say that going into that week, they are beating Alabama this year. They won't beat A&M, though. They won't make the playoff. This, blowout. They will beat South Carolina. I don't care who South Carolina has. The Razorbacks are steamrolling through the competition this year. Another home game. It is electric in Fayetteville.
Okay, perfect. This is probably going to be our quarterback match for the week.
That's what I'm most excited about.
Kentucky, led by Will Levis, versus Florida, led by Anthony Richardson. Give me your hot takes here.
So Kentucky looked good against Miami of Ohio. They're an underrated team. It started close. Kentucky pulled away. I actually did watch some of this game. But Florida's better. It's in the swamp.
In the swamp.
Swamp, tough place to play. Richardson greater than Levis. I told you I think Levis is overrated. And Florida just has better recruiting, better assets. They look great against Utah. They will be ranked going into that game, possibly ahead of Kentucky. This is the matchup I'm watching. I got Kentucky winning by more than a possession, or Florida winning by more than a possession. I hope it stays close, though. I hope it stays close. And how about this? This has draft implications.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Draft implications as well as Heisman. So Florida all day.
Huge game. With that being said, I'm taking the Gators. Brandon's stamp of approval. Gators money line. It's gonna hit Gators. I think they're favored, right or not?
Yeah, 4.5.
Yeah, Gators covering 2.
Still though, as much as we're hyping up Florida, I still like Arkansas more. A&M, Georgia, Bama, Ole Miss,
SEC's loaded.
Possibly Tennessee, and Kentucky can be better. This is not an automatic pick Florida all day after last week. Last week I think Florida actually played above expectations. I don't think they're gonna be that good every week, but if they can be, they can play their way into New Year's Six Bowl.
Yeah, for sure.
College football is exciting. NFL is back. The reason we didn't talk about the NFL is because we got episodes dropping in 2 days, giving our preseason predictions for both awards and the playoffs. Plus, we are going to start dropping this year a specific 1 minute to 2 minute segment, just giving our predictions for the week in the NFL.
Yep.
This is going to be the best week in sports of the year. I'm saying it now. Football is back, baby. I'm pumped about it.
Oh, yeah.
We are rolling. Weekly episodes will be dropping Thursdays. This is an outlier special Tuesday episode.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you guys got the special treat Tuesday episode. But yeah, like Spencer said, huge week in sports. I feel like everything's going on at once, and basketball isn't even going on. So
yeah, I know. We just got one more thing to mention. Our giveaway has ended, and we want to congratulate Francisco Mendoza Pena for winning the award.
Yep.
We want to once again thank you all for your constant support.
Yep.
We gained a lot of subscribers, got a lot of loving comments this week from you guys.
Yeah.
So please keep tuning in, tell your friends, and really let us know if you want your fantasy team to be graded on the episode, if you want an opinion you have to be mentioned, or even a debate. We will talk about it. We're all about the fans here, so thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you tune in for the next coming weeks.
Yeah, anything and everything you want us to talk about, just let us know. We're both on social media, Twitter, both of our personals. We have an Instagram, just DM us. Or even if you want to just comment on the video, hey, I'd like you guys to talk about this debate, or I want to hear what you guys have to say about this trade. We love sports. We love talking about sports. It's our favorite thing in the world, so please send it over to us.
Exactly. It really means a lot to us, so thank you guys for listening, and hopefully see you in 2 days.
Yeah, thank you.